think I'm okay. All right, so get that down. Editing. And we've gone through some of that. So I'll get us back to the position that we ended up last week. So I'll leave that there. I'll turn my screen on. And then you'll need to start your, so remember in the HTML5 folder. So let's go ahead and open up Index. And we can open it up in the browser, but also open it up in Notepad. So both locations there. And hopefully my screen's coming. Okay, so just as reminder of what we were going to do, and we've done some of this already, we're starting with just the index file, and then once we get our kind of template, we can copy that template to the other files, and we've done a little bit of that already. So we're changing our doc type from the strict 1.0 to HTML5. We've done that already. That took all of about 2 steps, so really super quick. Got to erase a lot of information actually. Got rid of the root element. We changed our character set to UTF-8. So again, that most of that is gone. The direction, the English language, such all done. We did add a viewport command so that basically the width of your screen equals the width of the device. So that will be true for desktop size, tablet size, phone size. We added an internal maximum width for our images, and we actually replaced the image tag. So that one. We organized the content to display in container style. We had done that the last time. So remember, it's 75% centered. We have a little border, all that good stuff. Mimic the appearance of a header, body content, and footer. So we're going to add a footer style. We added a background color already. So the container background color is a white color. So just FFF happens to be white. We last time figured out that we didn't really like either the lavender or the light blue, and you got to pick another color. We opened up the Missoula College Lead Gold image, and if we decide that that's the one we kind of want to shape our color tones with, I chose kind of a golden color. We added the background color. We added our link, so we have a little bit created with our cascading style sheets, not a whole lot, but we created our responsive _ menu _ styles cascading style sheet, and now we're linking to it in our head content. So we'll continue to add to that today. We also, whether this is a good use of this or not, but we practiced with it just to see what we thought. So we have an inline style. So we've got internal styles, external styles, and then we've got an inline style. Internal style meaning within our head content. External style meaning my responsive cascading style sheet outside of this particular document, external. Inline meaning within my little heading 1, this is all that's going to be affected, just this little line. I changed the font to 5 viewport width, and we'll see what that looks like. We added I think we did this last time, or did we do that before? The mail to link, was that last time? Before, okay. Nav bar appearance, so we did get to that as well. We created an unordered list that each list item is going to be a link that goes to our separate pages, and we identified content that we think might work for our viewer. So home, and maybe you're trying to communicate my professional academic hobbies, or we can, you know, decide later what, if we have better content that we want than what's there now. Maybe you want to post your resume. Maybe you want to talk about a little bit about what you like to do outside of work, and then further contact information. And we created in our cascading style sheet some appearance for what we want our unordered list and list items to look like. So we'll get to that in a minute. We had done that before with the width and the height. We did a little bit with nav bar appearance, but not a whole lot. So we'll finish the rest of that here today. So let me see where, and go ahead and call up your cascading style sheet too. So that was the responsive menu styles. And I'll open that again. We can open it with Notepad. There wasn't much on there. Let me get to the point. So we had done that already. We did that. We've got that. We did that part. This was keyed within your index file. So we're going to create, again, we did our new cascading style sheet. We added the UTF-8 character set. We're going to modify the navigation to remove the bullet associated with the unordered list. That was list style type of none, so we did that already. Remove the underline associated with the hyperlink. We still have the underline there, so we haven't gotten to most of this. We haven't gotten to yet. Align the elements along a horizontal plane, which we did that with the list item float here. So that aligns one to the left of the other. Float to one left of one another. Add some padding between to separate navigation elements. We're going to center them. We'll color them. You can color the bar. We actually did a little bit of that with the background color, and we can change that background color. Change the font color. We're going to add a border to separate the elements visually. We're going to add a drop down that's in block style and a hover display color. We're going to add an on current page change. We're going to add a media query. And actually we did add the media query. So add a max width of 488 pixels, don't float, and display it in block format. So we did that already, and I can show you with that, the result of that appearance. And again, media queries allow us to define different styles for different browser sizes. So a tablet and a desktop might display your menu bar or nav bar horizontally, but the phone might appear better if it was stacked vertically. And a lot of folks use a hamburger style now, so you probably are familiar with that. And again, we've named our file. So as we go, we've done this part, and we'll continue along there. We did the float left. So let's go ahead, and do you have your cascading style sheet open and then your instructions? Okay, so we'll click after we end our list item float left, and then we'll start with, and I'll kind of highlight here so that you can see where I'm at in the page. I guess I can't keep them both highlighted. So I'm going to separate them out. Again, visually, you can figure out if you like them double spaced or single space in between, but whatever is clear to you. So for my list items, again, it's a plain list item space, and then I'm doing my little right bracket, and I'll format it in. So I want a border to the right, so border at the right, and again, my little colon there to separate the tag from the attribute, the directions, instructions. So 1 pix, and I want it to be solid, and then I want it to be a color. So we'll see what BBB should work okay. And then I can end with my semicolon, and then again, I need that little right facing bracket. And let's file save here. I did do so you can see, I think last time we had a charcoal color, and at the last minute we changed it to a lavender color so that everybody could see their content, because you probably couldn't see it It's all squished together. There's no breaks, there's no padding, there's nothing really to differentiate it. So it's hard to know if I'm going to home professional or academic hobbies or what. So if we refresh now, the color is probably not good. Can you see there is a slight, I think, color there? I'm going to just change mine to black. So let's see what that does. So black may or may not be what I choose to keep, but at least I can see it now. And black is 3 zeros, or not zeros, yeah, zeros, not O's. Okay, so at least I've got some separation. It still is not looking very good, but we've got a little bit. Okay, and then we're going to do a list item for the last child to do a right border of none. So we've got this little border right now, so let's go see what that does. And so again, enter key 1 or 2 times, whatever you feel like you want to do. So it's a list item and then colon, and the list item is for the last child. And then no spaces in there, but after child there is a space with our curly bracket. And again, I'm just aligning. So border right, just like we had done before, and then this time none. And then we end our little right curly bracket and save it. And it just takes away that little right bracket. That's all it did. So it's an appearance thing. It'll make more sense here when it seems picky-uni right now. All right. The list item for the anchor drop-down, we are not going to get the appearance of that yet. I kind of hate to move around because I feel like I'll forget. Drop-down content. We might be at about the time where I need to start adding some content, or the drop-downs. Let's see. I think for this to make sense, so what's going on here? Let me get back to where I was at. So we're going to have, and again, this doesn't look very good right now, but if I land on, say, recreational activities, and I've got 2 or 3 things that I like to do, and I want them to be child pages within there, then I want it to drop down vertically beneath that and, you know, have a solid appearance and look great and behave as everything else does. So that's what I'd like to do, but until we have the drop down content within here, it's kind of tough to mimic what it looks like. So I think we'll go ahead and go back to your index file, and we'll actually key, and we'll have to create some new files again, but we know how to do that. So I'm at my unordered list again, so I'm at my menu, my navigation, and ignore the current for now. Hobbies is the same thing there. Resume is the same thing there, but activities, which is our favorite activities, is going to have a drop down. The class is going to be drop button, and then another class beneath will show that that's the drop down content, so formatting for that drop down content. So between resume and activities, go ahead and place an enter key there. And then if you want to tab key in a little bit, I don't know where you want to put it, if you want to put it inside or on the outside. I kind of got to go on the inside. So let's go ahead then and do the left bracket and then our list item class equals, and then drop down. And what you call it is your own thing. I'm just doing consistency for what my cascading style sheet says. Okay, so my list item equals class drop down. Make sure you have your little quotes there. Okay, so our list item, then we need to remove the list item for activities because we've got the list item here. And in fact, we may want to pull that to the left. We'll see. So do you see right before you've got your list item anchor hyperlink to go to activities? So you can go ahead and remove that. So delete that. And then we've got our anchor hyperlink reference to activities, HTML, which then my class is going to equal, and then within my quotes, drop button. So I'm shortening that, BTN. And I've got my recreational activities, whatever I want to call it. Then we want to, and I can actually remove this, we can cut it and paste it later, or just enter key it down a little bit. Mine is wrapping around, that's why it looks funny. So I've got my anchor hyperlink reference, I'm ending my anchor. The next line down then will be the format, so we've got 2 of them at least you're going to have display in a vertical format. So go ahead and again tab key in, and our div class, so it's a division, will be equal to, and then drop down, and then a hyphen content, and end your little quote there, end your right bracket. And then my 2 favorite hobbies are cruises and fishing. So they really aren't, but let's say they are. They're lake related. So I'm gonna go ahead and tab key in again, and maybe I tab a bunch, I don't know, we can fix this later if we think it's not very workable from a organization standpoint. So again, it's an anchor, it's a hyperlink reference to a file, and your file will be something you like to do. And then we got to end our anchor. And then you can copy and paste if you want to copy and paste this one. Change it. Oops. And the next one for me, I don't know, fishing rivers. I don't know what I want to do. It's being outside, that's all I know. Then, because we started a division, we need to end the division. So again, however you format this, if you want to do same line, different line, end our division, and then I had enter key down to end my list item. And again, I may want to tab these in division. I may want to pull that back out because that is the beginning of my list item. So the whole thing, and we'll stop here just for a second, but the whole thing, I'm adding a list item that's going to be a drop down for activities. 2 of the files within there will be cruises and fishing. And there's a couple of classes attached, drop button, so some instructions to tell it what to do, and then to end my division and to end my list item. And we'll have to create those 2, oops, I need to spell that correctly. We're going to have to create those 2 files just like we've done in the past. So we'll do that. And then the last one is contact. And right now, if I want to separate these out, if I want contact to stand alone for some reason, I might want it to float right to be separated from the others. So that's just an instruction again. If you, we'll go ahead and add it. But just so you know how to add it. So I need to go back to my index file. So again, it's internal to just contact. And I go to my little list item here in the contact row or line there, and I add my style. And my style equals, and it's float right, float colon right, and my little quote there. And then I've got my anchor hyperlink reference to contact, and my name contact will show up visibly on the screen. I end my anchor, I end my list item, and then I end my unordered list. So really the only thing we did there was add a space and then float colon right. So if we save this, oops, so file save, refresh. So things are a little bit goofy right now, right? Okay, so why are they goofy?
The line between recreational activities and contract goes all the way down to the inner border.
And that's because it's wrapping around, yeah. Why are cruises and fishing on the same line? If we go look back at our cascading style sheet, remember how I stopped at last child border right is none? So there's no instruction. We kind of had to format the menu first. Didn't have to, but we chose to, because then once we actually add a little bit for the cascading style sheets, you're going to see how it applies. If we don't have the content in the menu, but it's showing us the 2 pages. They're there. That's great. I can click cruises. I don't know that they're different because other than the underline, but you know, if the underline were removed, wow, would I go to cruises and fishing? I don't know what that is. So it's confusing, first of all, but it shows them. So we see that there's something else there, but it just can't format them to drop down vertically. We haven't told it how to do that yet. So it's still doing the same old horizontal. It's still doing a list style type of none, and it's doing the margin and the padding, you know, adding the 0. It is, though, floating left of one another. So that's about the only thing that's maybe we can visually see that we've got an instruction for. Okay, so then, is yours okay so far, so you can kind of see them? Okay, if I click cruises, it's going to give me an error, but I get to a page, so that's always good. If I click fishing, again, I get there. That's good. I just don't have them created yet. So until we create those, we're going to get errors in moving to other pages. We did create last Thursday. We created kind of the basics for these other ones, and we'll do that for cruises and fishing too. So we'll go back to, actually, we want to go to the responsive design or responsive menu style, back to this document, and then I need to go all the way back up. Okay, so we ended with last child border right none, which now I wonder if it's saying, it's seeing, oh, no, contact is still the last child. So it's shoved to the right. Did yours go to the right? And there isn't a border on the end. So that still is, so that is kind of strange looking that it drops down like that, but all right. Okay, so then let me move here, and I might move that up a little bit so that you can see my screen a little bit better. All right, so let's go ahead and add, so the drop button, and there's quite a bit here. It goes page to page. So it's actually this whole thing that I'm going to be adding. It's just an unfortunate block is where that's at, but we're adding a list item for our anchors, and they're a drop button is the name that we applied. The display is going to be inline block. The color will be white. The text should be aligned center. There should be a little bit of padding with a text decoration of none. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add that. So we've got a list item space for an anchor, and then comma space, and then we'll call it period. So it's a class. Remember, the classes begin with a period, and then drop, and then BTN. Again, if you called it drop button spelled out, then you would change that. Okay, with space, and then I've got my little curly bracket there, and tab key to organize is all. So my display colon is inline hyphen block, and then remember you have to end with a semicolon. So the colon separates the instruction from, or the tag from the instruction, and then ending my instruction. Color is going to be white, and again, we can change all these things. Text align, center, and padding 14 pixels. Again, we can change these, but 14 and 16. And then text decoration is none. And then I'm going to end with my little right curly bracket. So let's save that. Oops. That little screen share thing kind of gets in the way. There we go. Move that down slightly. And did I save that? I hadn't saved it. So we have, and again, will we change these? Probably, but do you have a change anyway? So we've got the text color that's white. The padding is 14 and 16 pixels, so there's a top. And when you only have two, so I can describe left, right, top, and bottom if I want to, but I'm using top the same and left, right the same. Top, bottom the same, left, right the same. So I've only got a couple of instances there, but could be further defined if we want to. Text decoration, do you notice what went away? What else was there? Just a second ago. Does anybody remember? So remember those ugly underlines? Those are confusing. They're a link, but for a navigation for a menu, you don't often see underlines. So just from an appearance, I think they're okay with our little email there. But so if you like underlines, you would leave the text. You wouldn't have a text decoration none instruction. You wanted it to be the same as default, but that's probably not usual that you see underlines on a nav bar. Okay, so we'll keep going here. So we're also going to change, and again, because of our color combinations and our different, yours is different than mine, we're going to probably want to change these, but the colors are sharp enough, I think, that we're going to get contrast to know what's going on. For our list item, the anchors, we're going to add a hover for the anchor, a hover for the drop down, and drop button to be a red color. So that should stand out, maybe not in a good way, but we'll see it. So for our list item, anchor, hover, and for the class, drop down, hover, and space, drop button. Right curly bracket and the background color, red, and then I'm going to end my right curly bracket. And then save that. It's not very attractive, but so your mouse over, that's your hover, and I'll go back again. Is anybody needing me to stop and slow down a minute to type this?
I can't get the two tags under recreational activities to pop up.
Okay, let's go to index first. Okay, so it could be that maybe you've got two list items potentially. So first look for list item, and I'm after resume. So make sure resume is solid. I've got the beginning list item, my anchor to resume, my closing anchor, my closing list item. Okay. Then I'm opening my list item. The class is dropped down. And again, I've got the quotes and my bracket. Then I go directly. So if you've got another list item right here, you don't want one. Okay, you don't. Okay. So then my anchor, hyperlink reference, I'm going to the file activities, which we had last week. And then the class is with a space, class equals drop button. And then we had this last week too, recreational activities. I'm ending my anchor. And then starting with your div class equals, and then within quotes, drop down hyphen content, end your quote. And your two links, again, the names will be different, but you've got an anchor, hyperlink reference, and you could copy and paste the same thing here, except that you don't have list items before and after them. So anchor, hyperlink reference, I've got a closing for cruises, a closing for fishing. I'm ending my div, so that's closing my div, and then I'm ending my list item, which begins at the drop down. Same thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So that sounds right. Is there an extra for baking? You got that extra little bracket. And then, was it? Yeah. And otherwise, I think. Okay. Yeah, it's always some little goofy thing. Anybody else have issues?
I was having an issue with my spouse not popping up, but I fixed it.
With the what? Are you gonna be okay with it?
Yeah.
I'm recording it too, so you should be.
Yes.
Okay, okay, all right, okay, sounds good. Now, what was that?
I was having an issue with the balance sheet not connecting to the page, but then I realized the cache was browser connection.
Really?
Yeah, so I opened it in a browser to work.
Which browser were you using?
I was using Edge.
I don't hardly use Edge.
That's
So I probably don't see all those errors because I almost really never see. Oh, that's really weird. Yeah. Browser compatibility. Okay. Okay. So far so good. Hover color, again, these are not attractive. We'll be changing these things. Okay, so back to your Word file, which is the instructions. So the last thing we just did, again, the hover for the background color red. So now our list item drop down will display inline block, and that should fix this little issue. Okay, with the side-by-side cruises and fishing. We'll see. Sometimes it takes more than one instruction to fix these. I have sat here at times and tried to fix things, and it's kind of like it's right in front of you. You probably do that too. It's like right in front of you, and you work 4 hours literally on something that's really simple. And I think this was one of them, to be honest. Okay, list item, and then it's a class, so I'm calling it drop down. And again, my little space with my right facing bracket, and my display is inline and hyphen block. And then I end my little right. Oh, and it could be the absolute position too. This may be some of it also. So we'll do this one, we'll go one by one and see what happens. Yeah, no, it's not quite fixing it yet. I think it's the absolute position. is what fixes it, but part of the problem is that the drop down needs to be inline block display too. Okay, so we'll keep going. The next one then is the drop down content. So I'll try to add just so you can see the head here a little bit. So it's kind of in the center. Okay, so we just ended again, list item, drop down content, display inline block. So I'm right here, drop down content. So period, drop down, hyphen content, and my space with the bracket. And that will be, so if we look at our index file, yeah, so that's probably what's going to hopefully figure this thing out, because that's what starts the drop down there, is in our little division. So let me go back to that file again. Okay, so then I'm ready to go. Where am I at? Where's my cursor? Okay, so display is none. Position is absolute. And then the background color, yeah, who knows on that? It's probably not going to be. I'm just using things that seem to stand out. A whole bunch of like F9, F9. And my min width is 160 pixels. And I've got padding here, but they're not all the same. And maybe I don't want them all the same, but maybe for cruises and fishing, I want them to be more consistent. So that's something you'd have to think about too, if padding is suitable, or do you think everything needs to be the same? I think the padding in this case is probably the better way to go, but everybody has their own design, rhyme, and reason. So 160, and then we're going to add just a little box shadow, and this is a whole bunch of stuff. Box shadow, 0 pix, 8 pix, space in between, 16 pix, and then again 0 pix, RGB, and it's got an A after it, so that looks like that's correct. I don't think that's a typo. And then some zeros, 4 of them, whoops, and then a 0.2. So 0, 0, 0, 0.2, and then my little colon there. And then my Z index is what's in front of one another is 1. Dex 1. And then I end my little right bracket. We'll see what this does. So file save. See if we've got any changes. Okay, then the content doesn't display, so we'll have to get that displayed. It's all okay. Everybody so far so good? Did it change to mine? No? Yeah?
And I've changed some of the colors. Just because I didn't like that purple and red.
That's okay. Yeah, and you can do that later. I mean, if you're ahead, change them.
Oh, I just did it as I went. I don't like that color.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And you may want to be much more picky and go in and get hexadecimal colors. That's fine. You can use blue, you can use green, gray. Yeah, no, that's okay to do that. It's more or less the function, but the colors you can come back and do that later. But yeah, function is what I'm worried for right now. That's it. Okay, so now we're going to do drop down content for our anchors, which are these little fellows that we can't see. So we did the drop down content for activities. And it should be 160. We'll see what's down below it. If it's 160 pixels. Box shadow, do Z index. Okay, we'll keep going here. Okay, so our period again, find my space here. Period, and then drop down content. For the anchor, color is black. And padding, kind of similar. 16 pixels. Whoops, gotta end that. Text decoration none, which it probably doesn't need to be doubled, but because we didn't see it before, but that's okay as text decoration. None. Remember, that's the underline. Display block. And text align. We may do something different here left. Oops, semicolon. And then, is there more? Then I end my little right curly. File save. And they're still not showing up. Okay, so then what do we do? Oh, drop down, hover, hover. Okay, drop down, hover, display block. We'll just get all the way through here and see. That doesn't change it. That doesn't change it. Okay, hopefully, because I fought this for a really long time last semester and I thought I had it just perfect. All right, we'll keep going here. Okay, so drop down content for the anchor, hover color. For the anchor, hover. And within my curlies, background color is F1, a whole bunch of those. And my curly there. So hopefully the drop-down hover, drop-down content display block makes it show up. Yay! This stressed me out so bad last semester. I worked at home for hours, like probably 2 days. And I think the little line was, for some reason, I had to have it in like the right place because display block. The anchor, content. Let me go to my index file. So it must have been, I bet you I probably thought that drop down content anchor, when I had that display block, I was thinking it would take care of both of those, but I think it was only trying to do those two. And I still needed the drop down, so I needed, let's see, this level to display the block. I think that's what was going on, and it just drove me crazy. So did yours work okay? No? Okay. You're just trying to make me feel better. Okay, so what doesn't happen is right here. So nothing is the color. So let me go to that place in mine. Right there. We've got a list of them, space, cover, drop down, cover, background, there. Okay, and then if we go to index, we've got okay, let me go to my index because that might be where it's at.
Here someplace where you.
It's not like there's only one place you can have problems.
Right.
Okay, so then, and I'm just checking everything because sometimes the problem lies above it.
Right.
Okay, you can do this type of minutes drop down, okay. Anchor hyperlink reference to activities, and you've got your quotes, your space, class is drop button, and then you've got the name, okay. And then your div class is drop down. Spelled the same. And I wonder if it's in another part of your file. So this was all.
So this, you're saying here is not working.
Yeah, but I wonder if there's maybe. I don't see a misspelling anywhere else. I may have to have you email it to me so I can study it a little bit. But that's okay, we can keep working now. So that's kind of a minor thing. But, or you can, you have the you can put to box, right?
I think so.
Yeah, so don't do it now. We'll continue on, but yeah, if you have issues, sometimes I have to actually just sit down a while, and it may be, so Kendra had a tiny little right-facing bracket that just was sitting there. So sometimes little things that my eye just doesn't catch right off the top. Yeah. Okay, so as long as that works, and I think the 160 probably is not perfect because it's maybe not wide enough here for recreational activities. So let's see, like what if we change, is yours okay or is it just mine? So 180, maybe 178 actually might work a little better for me. And if I make changes, so if I change my wording or, you know, I mean, whatever you do, you're going to always make some slight changes. But if I wanted that to be approximately the same size there, that kind of works okay. So what happens when we skinny this up? So make it go to mobile size here. So it kind of wraps goofy. Contact stays at the right. You know, it's good for tablet things, you know, come down, that's okay. But then when we get to mobile size, you know, something kind of little, it wraps and then wraps down, and contact is kind of at the right. So that may not be perfect, but we'll just keep going as is for now. And also, so here, my viewer, again, colors are bad, but, oh, and the color, you can barely see that, but the gray color that's the mouse over, that's your hovered gray, so that's one of those, probably F1, whatever those are. Anyway, so you can barely see it, it's there. But my viewer, if I click on another page, and I know I don't have, the same thing, so I can't really demonstrate, but, my viewer can't tell they're home right now. Okay, so other than if I had a welcome to, my content maybe tells you, but nothing really on my navigation to help my viewer out. So go back to your responsive design or responsive menu styles file. And the other thing we're going to do is add, and again, we're going to change this color as we go, but it's a current, so there's going to be a text color and a background color so that it stands out. And I'll go ahead and key. So the class is called current, as in current page. You can call it anything you want to, on page, current, whatever you want to call it. It just can't have a space in it. It can have an underline if you like that. So I'm going to call it current. And then again, start my little curly bracket. And my color is going to be white. So that's the # FFF. And my background color, I can't remember. It's probably some ugly color because it might stand out. And we'll go see what that color looks like. Oh, okay. This is another question for you. Okay, so I just created a class, and my intent for creating this class is to apply a white color type to some ugly background color that stands out on my nav bar. Okay, why isn't it occurring? I saved the file.
No inline stuff though.
I don't have a style there. Yep. So I've got to go to my index file. Good job. You're in an A for the day. That means you can go home. No, I'm kidding. So we have to tell it that the class equals current. So that actually is in, it's up in the menu area. I remember I told you to ignore it. So let me find that. Where is, oh, maybe it was further down. There it is right there. So my list item class equals current, and my anchor is still the same thing. So list item, and then my class equals, and whatever you called it, I called mine current. Then, if you file save it, then if we go here, we'll see what ugly color. Well, that's not so bad. Sometimes I amaze myself. With the whole scheme of things, that sort of matches, but the red doesn't really. Okay, so we added that, and let me get back to where it was at there. Okay. And the div footer, I don't think we added a expertise. Okay, we add the footer there. We'll do that to this document. Okay, let's go back to your index file. So we've got your nav bar we've been working on. We've got the division for our grid container. And really, the division is everything. So we've put everything inside that white space, you know, the 75% indent white space we have. So what if we wanted to have a little footer that was outside? So if we have a style, let's say we've got this, you know, a nav bar at the top that goes edge to edge, whatever size our screen, our viewport width, it's going edge to edge, and it'll shrink in. And then we might kind of like this format of, you know, indenting the main content. Maybe we kind of like that. And then if we go down, there might be identifying information. Maybe it's copyright, maybe it's more contact, maybe it's another little text menu bar, maybe it's a person, you know, more contact information, something that's more, that is also important for your company. So we may have a footer section, which we don't have right now. So go to your index page, and then I've got kind of a little not very exciting footer here. So I want to be after the close of my grid container div, but I want to be before the body. So I'm creating space down at the bottom, and I'm adding a footer. And I could just add a footer, but we know we're going to be adding a division here and a footer class. So I'm identifying it further. So my little left bracket, and then my div class equals, and we'll identify it within our cascading style sheet, but it's going to be called footer_div. And my little quote and my right bracket, and then my content. What do I want my footer to say? And maybe it's copyright 2002 to 2020. I might want just a line break, so that's the little BR. And then last updated. So let's put today, September 16, 2019, by, put your name. And then let's do another break. And what else do we want to put? I don't know. What else? We don't need. Do we need anything else? We value people. And the environment, and the world, and our jobs, and our families. Save. So you might get some content here, but it's not formatted. So it all default blocks to the left. Remember, Times New Roman is the default font, but it's outside of our grid container. That's all we know so far. Okay, so we'll go back up and let me find where we're formatting that footer. We did that. So we'll format the footer here. So I'm in my document again, so the instructions document. I want to go to my responsive menu styles. And the order of all this stuff, so I guess I recommend when you're creating a cascading style sheet, I would try to keep all of your like menu stuff, navigation stuff together. It doesn't matter, it's still gonna do it, whatever you're telling it to do, but it's so much more organized. And if you have to go back and geez, what was that did, why did that go, when did it get in the block, what color is that, it really helps. So it doesn't matter the order, but it helps to format it in some sort of an order. So we're calling this one, remember it's a class footer div, which we already know, and starting your little curly bracket. So this is kind of the first thing that we're using, or first aspect of our document where we're telling it to format in some sort of a font different from Times New Roman, which is the default. So, and we don't maybe need to go this long with this whole thing, but the font family is Segway. Oops, that's a G. And what's going to happen, so I'm going to call it Segway, but if I have other operating systems, so if the font family, it tries to find Segway and it doesn't find it, then the next, so maybe I'm on an Apple platform or maybe I'm on a Unix platform and it doesn't know what else to do. So if it can't find Segway, it might try to find Segway UI. If it doesn't find Segway and Segway UI, it's going to go to Deja Vu Sans. If it doesn't find that, then we're going to go to trebuchet, verdana, and if it can't find anything, some sans serif. Sans serif meaning there's no little swishies. It's a solid character with no text decoration on it. So that's, and I'm going to go ahead and copy that whole thing because that's kind of a lot. But that's the purpose of that, so that you're telling the system, if you don't find this, your next priority font is here. If you don't find that, all the way down the list. And so we've got that, and we might want to tell it that the size is small, so font size, oopsie, is small, and the text align, maybe we like center, and maybe our background color, we want it to be something different. Again, I probably use some really funky dunky color here, so we'll find out what it is. And I might want a margin so you can offset from an edge. So I guess remember that. You've got margin top, right, left, bottom. We'll see what top does here. They would be all formatted the same, obviously, and 10 pixels might be enough. And then I'm going to end my little right curly bracket, so we'll see what we got here. So I'm going to save it, refresh it. Well, I'm not so sure about that color. So it's kind of a beigey tone. Kind of looks like the mountains, but maybe I'd want to stick with something that looked more like the rust. I don't know. But I can see it. I guess if I've got black type, I can see against that lighter background. Oh, and we're getting almost image float. I think we may end up so that we don't have any float left. Well, we can see what this looks like. Yeah, let's do that. So, yeah, we may get some change here. We don't have a lot of images and our content's kind of goofy. This is probably better than the hobbies page, however, to test this. So go back to your responsive file, your cascading style sheet, and this is going to define, so we're going to call it image float, and we can have, I mean, you can call it anything, but the tag is image, and it's floating content around the image. So I guess your task here is to name it so that I know if I want to float text to the left of my image, then I want to call that something different than if I want text to flow to the right of my image. And you may not want your images to float at all in some cases. So, and then, and actually I think we'll stop with image float left and then we'll see what it looks like. So let's first go, so it's a class, img, underscore float, and start my little curly bracket, and then let's do float left. And then let's save this for a minute. So I'm going to do my little right curly. So file, save, and then let me see here. Let's see if it's going to help me out here. Yeah, so we'll fix this, but apply it. So go to your picture, the one of yourself, So remember, I've got the Vizsla Cousins, and we just created a very little short cascading style sheet instruction called image_float. It's a class, and we've told it to float left. In other words, float the image to the left of the type. So I'm going to float the image to the left of the type. And again, if I go back to my responsive design file, class image_float, float left, that's all I did. And then I had to add the class. Remember to separate your spacing. So it doesn't really matter, again, where you put it in the line of your, your picture, in my case, Vizsla Cousins. But as long as you have spacing, the class equals the same exact name. So image_float, save it, and then do your refresh. Okay, so this does do some things here. So in phone view, it doesn't really matter because it's not wrapping, but as soon as I get beyond the, for my case, the image of the dogs, it wraps around. And it kind of helps. Remember that big, huge white space we had on the right end of our image? It kind of helps. But what are the downsides to what I just did? The upside is it might even it out a little bit. What are the downsides? Is that a little close? So that's really distracting. So there's some things that we need to fix. I think there's some pluses that we can get out of this. I think it's good to have the content wrap, and you can have an image to the right and the content, the text content at the left. It doesn't really matter. You'd have to distinguish your image float, the left from the right, for example. But that's where, and then the other thing too, I've got background starting, so I think we need to look at where the margin is. Maybe there's a top margin, the margin at the right, the min width. So when do I want it to start wrapping? And that's the phone size again, so that little tiny, but my image is so large that it's going to start wrapping. We won't fix this until, so we'll stop here today, and then we'll start modifying this. And I know all of your pictures are a little bit different, so you may have some different settings on how you wrap things, but we've kind of got the basics going there. So anyway, be sure you've saved where you're at currently, and I'll stop my recording there.